This guy, Flash Thompson, he probably deserved what happened. But just because you can beat him up doesn't give you the right to. Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and today it's time to review Amazing Spider-Man 850, The Return of the Green Goblin. And for the most part, I kind of like this comic book. There's a few things that downgraded, but this is on the verge of a highly recommend. I'll just call it a recommend at this point. And here with me today to talk about it is the Poobah Comics himself. Perch, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
So what are your just overall impressions, feelings about Spider-Man 850?
Well, I mean, it's a fine adventure. I don't think I liked it as much as you did, because it's a fairly straightforward adventure. It has some decent stuff in it, but it also has a lot of little things that annoy me. And maybe it's just pet peeves. It's the 850th issue and also the 49th issue, and we're getting the 50th issue next month, and that kind of stuff just annoys me. But ultimately, it's a conflict. It's Spider-Man doing the adventure. It's the Spider friends kind of looking on from the balcony, and we're going to get into it.
Mm-hmm. So before we get into the details, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, give us a thumbs up if you want more reviews like this on the channel. Give me a thumbs down if you don't. Either way, Perch and I are dying to hear from you and your thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man 850. Am I right? Was it pretty darn good? Is Perch wrong? Was it just merely okay? Now let's kind of get into the details. First thing we'll talk about is the art. The first artist, I believe, is Ryan Ottley. The artist for the second story, I believe, is Mark Bagley. And then
it's Ramos. Ramos is second, then Bagley.
Okay, my bad. I got all those backwards. Yep. Humberto Ramos is the second story, and then Mark Bagley is the third story. Perfectly fine art, not amazing, but certainly very good.
Well, I like that. I like that you have a bigger anniversary issue. The one thing I did like about this story is you had 3 chapters. They labeled them. It was like 3 clear acts to the story, and you picked 3 artists that are very attached to Spider-Man at this point. And I thought that was well done.
I'll be honest, I kind of dig the way that Marvel does this a little bit more than the way like DC did Wonder Woman 750 and Flash 750. Like Flash 750 had the main story, it had a teaser for the future, and it had like 6 extra crap stories. I like that this one, like the vast majority of this is the continuation of the Sin Eater story, or maybe the finale, with a little bit of teasers about Kindred, which they've been teasing since issue 1. Like I kind of like that better than just a hodgepodge of kind of just random stories.
I do too. I think, and I really hate how the anniversary issues have turned into this kind of, it doesn't really matter. I mean, the stories don't really impact anything. They're kind of, it's a celebration of the characters, so a lot of little stories. And here we are getting a long, I mean, I think 70-page story roughly, a little bit less than that. That is the continuation of the storyline. So it feels like a long, classic, big, double-sized issue. With artists that matter to Spider-Man, that have been kind of tied to Spider-Man, and it's all comic story, and I think that's much better. And I wish more anniversary issues were like this in that regard.
Yeah, I will give them this. I like the way this is executed more than the way that DC's kind of been doing their 750 issues. But I like the art in this. There's never a dull moment. This is basically just one big action story. But before we get into all the action, there are a few things. At the very beginning, Norman Osborn takes the serum, puts on the costume, and it's Return of the Green Goblin. Obviously, we knew that was going to happen. But I'm with you. All along in the story, there's 5 characters, 6 characters, I guess, watching over him. We've got Sydney Moon, Spider-Gwen, Spider-Woman, Miles Morales. They're all kind of watching over Peter as he's in this conflict. He's got Norman Osborn as a Green Goblin beside him. Apparently, they've all had this premonition, or they see in the future, where basically once the Sin Eater purifies Norman Osborn is going to kill Spider-Man.
Right.
And there's a debate amongst themselves whether it's time to intervene. And finally, it's decided after Gwen Stacy gives what she calls her TED Talk that, Peter is a great hero. He knows what he's doing. He will do what's right no matter what. just because we've seen this this future doesn't set it in stone, and Peter will do what's right. It's his destiny. We are not going to intervene.
Yeah, and I hated that part. I mean, to be honest,
I did too.
You've got a bunch of heroes, and I mean, they're just like, our goal is to stand around while Spider-Man is fighting off like 1,000, Green Antifa members. It's ridiculous. I hate that aspect of it. This idea of like, well, we need to interfere because we need to kill Green Goblin and not let Spider-Man save him. He's making the wrong choice by doing the right thing, and it's just, and the TED Talk, like you said, it's just dumb. You in theory, all these people are heroes, but
yes,
this is not heroic on any level.
In my opinion, that's the third worst thing about this entire issue. It was very annoying. I wish it wasn't included in there. And then this thing on the right, I guess this is Sin Eater, and he's combined with Juggernaut, and you sort of get that by the shape of his head.
Yeah.
But he looks like he's Sin Eater Hulk to me.
Well, sure. And also the Juggernaut it doesn't look like that. That's him with his helmet on. Yes. He's taking the Sin and then he's making his helmet into his skin. That doesn't make any sense. That's not how his powers worked in the past. And it also just looks bizarre and stupid. Why is he all scarred up? What is going on? I mean, it's fun to draw, I guess, but I mean, it looks dumb. And so you've got, I don't know, this aspect of the comic with kind of the rando faceless Sin Eater clone guys running around, and then we've got Juggernaut Sin Eater about to smash. I mean, I don't know. It took away from the drama of what was a pretty action-packed issue.
Yeah, so I thought that was hokey. Obviously, they needed to power up Sin Eater so it could take on Spider-Man and Green Goblin and feel like a fearsome foe. But I do not feel like the look of that character was executed correctly. But getting into it, like I said, at first, they're like, okay, it's Spider-Man and Green Goblin, and we're teaming up. And they're going, and it's not going all that well, and Spider-Man's, causing Green Goblin to get hit, and they're cursing at each other like, what the hell? And it's not going well. They're old foes. This is kind of the way you would expect it to happen. And then there is a good moment, and I believe this ends the second chapter. I can't remember. It's a good moment. Basically, Peter is down. It's a good moment, but I don't like the execution of this perfectly. Basically, Norman Osborn, who's like 20 or 30 years older than Peter Parker, he's like, when you found out who I was, you rejected me, and it hurt my feelings. I was like, not exactly Peter's land. Like, this dude's a lot younger than you. Why would you want a 14-year-old? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a weird. I mean, this is a weird telling of what's going on. I think Green Goblin. I mean, he's crazy. The serum made him crazy, and he was always kind of a dick even before that. And so this idea that it's like, I always hated you because you rejected me when I reached out to you, and Peter saying I was just a kid, and that kind of back and forth. It kind of minimizes a lot of kind of the creepy insanity of the Green Goblin. That's not what the character's supposed to be.
They tried to humanize him, and I don't think it worked.
No, and then 20 pages later, he's kind of Biden stroking Spider-Gwen's head. So I don't know.
Yeah. So this is what I like the most about this comic. I love wrestling. You know that, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Who doesn't?
I love professional wrestling, and this felt like the pay-per-view before SummerSlam, where the two guys that are going to be in the main event, they have to tag team in the one before, and that beginning they can't work together. Then finally they can work together. Then maybe there's going to be a double cross or not. It felt like one of those main events. So that's why I liked it. Like, it was fun. There's all sorts of stuff. What's going to happen here or there? At the bottom, obviously here, Norman Osborn's picking up a big rock. It looks like he's going to squash Peter Parker like a spider. And then he's like, but you saved me that day, and I'm here to pay it back. And he lifts him up. And there was tension.
I like that too. And it did have that wrestling feel. I like the idea, and I've always liked the idea of uncomfortable allies of the situation is so severe that people who shouldn't work together are working together because the threat is so dire. I think that I love that dynamic. I wish they'd done better with the threat. This is where the giant hulking kind of juggernaut senior just feels like a big hulky guy smashing stuff. I mean, the army of followers is kind of out of the picture at this point. Somewhere else, they're hanging out in the cafeteria, and it's just it deserved more. But that aside, I love the idea of these guys you can't really trust, and then of course you can't trust them because then Green Goblin does kind of turn on him after saving him.
Yeah, so here that they all of a sudden, once he saves them, they kind of understand each other. Just like I said, as you're going to the end of your main event, the two heroes, well, the hero and the villain start working together. They start working over the Juggernaut, and then they remember there's this EMP that Norman Osborn's created, and they're going to use it to liquefy the ground using tremors. Don't think that that's scientifically possible, but maybe, I guess, and it's they're trapping the Sin Eater dude in the ground, and he's going to bring Peter down with him, and Peter's kind of like, it was all worth it, everyone that I saved, he's kind of making peace with it. Then he goes, but not today, and he's going to save himself. And then there you go. There's the big heel turn. Norman Osborn cuts the line, and he's like, I saved you once, and that was my payback, but that's enough, sucker, and starts shoving his head beneath the liquid ground.
Yeah, I thought that was I thought that was a good moment. This is probably one of the highlights of it, other than the fact that this kind of EMP device is going to liquefy a small circle in the pavement and not the rest of everything else around. I mean, that's just kind of weird. But hey, comics. I think the idea of Spider-Man sinking, he remembers Mary Jane. I like the line of, I'm not doing this for him. I'm doing it for everyone else and what's supposed to be right. That's a cool line. That is core Spider-Man. Good for him. And then I like that he tries to save himself. I like that Norman does the heel turn and all of that. I think that sequence is nicely done. That fits the characters, and we realize the team up is effectively over. And then, of course, he's saved by the Spider buddies who've been just hanging out this entire time. How much murder has gone on? I mean, in theory,
they've been saying the whole time, we're leaving it to Petey. Petey's a good guy. He's capable. He's going to do the right thing. It's his fight.
Yeah,
until he's going to die.
And then it's like, well, he's sinking into the concrete and everything else. And then Spider-Man's like, wow, thank you very much. Fantastic timing. Fantastic timing would have been like 30 minutes earlier when you were getting smashed by the building, or while the other
had to team up with Norman Osborn.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. In theory, other people work in this building. I mean, I'm assuming that somewhere up on floor 5, the little kind of Sin Eater Antifa mob is just destroying all of the other orderlies and the doctors and everything. I'm throwing them out of buildings and things, but the Spider families down below are like, now we'll help out. It's just goofy, and Marvel has pushed so hard to build up some of these characters, Miles Morales, Spider-Woman, and Spider-Gwen, of these are big heroes. They stand like Peter. And to have that is just, why are they there? They're definitely the cast.
And he had to be saved by a bunch of other characters.
Yeah. I mean, which would be fine if the entire time they'd been out kind of saving other humans and people in the bill. Well, whatever.
It was like, what is it? Clash of the Titans, when the gods are up there watching everything that what Perseus is doing.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking of those old reviewers from the Muppets who were like, "Hey, he's having a fight down there." I don't know. It's all pretty crazy, and then this kind of getting into the brain, and Norman Osborn starts creeping, and then
he's like sniffing Spider-Gwen. It's like, what? Yeah. Is that you? Intoxicating. I was like, this is really creepy.
Yeah, which is okay. I mean, he is a creepy guy, but then, back 20 pages ago, don't try and kind of redeem him on some level by my real problem is you weren't nice to me. And then 20 pages later, it's like, the scent of Spider-Gwen.
I can't stop myself. You and I are going to be a thing, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. I mean, Yikes! I mean, and anyway, a lot of
So the end of it's weird. So that happens, and Peter obviously gets very upset with it. But the whole time they're stressing that the liquid concrete is only going to stop the Sin Eater Juggernaut guy for minutes. You've only bought us minutes here. I was like, well, it doesn't feel like you really saved anything. It's going to take the whole building down. But then this is the worst part of the comic for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's Spider's like, if he wants to kill Norman for everything they did. He turned on him and for sniffing Spider-Gwen. He's like, don't you ever sniff Spider-Gwen again. And so he wants to kill him, and he doesn't want to do it. So in order to stop himself from doing it, he lets him go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in theory, he's tossing him out to his death because Sin Eater is coming out of the concrete, but it's been a few minutes now. I mean, they're having a long conversation. I mean,
they're in the water. It's not, you didn't even throw them into the concrete. They're on the water by that time because they're on a boat.
And I mean, you're assuming, Norman's going to get the hell out of there, I guess, or he's going to get killed. It's just odd. And this whole dialogue is weird. And Norman's sniffing Gwen's hair, and then, then he's like, I'm going to get them all. They all deserve, a death, and kind of you get this weird flip of Norman. And then Spider-Man decides to just punch the wall, right? And Miles comes in with the, hey, let's just bring it down a notch. And it's like,
chill out, bro.
You dumbass, you're a hero. You've got this guy talking about how, number one, he's giving off super rapey vibes over to Gwen, and then he's talking about how he's going to murder everybody and they deserve it. It's like, whoa, let's not be angry, Peter. Come on.
Dial it back, people.
Dial it back. This is the guy who was like, I don't understand why Peter doesn't just kill the guy like 40 pages earlier. Gwen has to do a debate pitch to basically convince them not to go kill Norman Osborn, and here he's like, I mean, come on, he's got some good sides. Who doesn't like to sniff Gwen every now and then? I mean, we all like that. It's just, what the hell's going on?
Yeah. So the thing I liked about it, I'll be shocked if Nick Spencer isn't a WWF fan. Like, he's clearly a wrestling fan pulling off a storyline like a storyline like this. Not everything makes sense. There's some good tension in there. There's some weird double crosses. There's moments that feel out of character, but it felt like a main event of like, I don't know, what's the pay-per-view before SummerSlam? Like Payday or whatever. WWE Payday. I enjoyed it, so I thought the story was fun.
Yeah, now, I like the action. I'm with you. I do, for all the rest, I will take this kind of action, even if it's silly and everything else, to, like we talked about before, weird memorial stories, weird, little 4-page clips that really have no meaning. Them sitting around eating in Wakanda, and lots of better things in this than most comics. But
So at the end, there are 3 extra stories. And whenever I see a comic like this, there's like a 70-page story, and then there's a bunch of stuff tacked on. And I feel like in almost all circumstances, that can do nothing but detract from the comic book. Like, the one exception I can think of off the top of my head is in the very first Daredevil issue, Chip Zdarsky wrote and illustrated an extra story in the end that was actually additive to the story, but he was also the writer, so it felt like it should have been there, and he kind of demonstrated a new way to show Daredevil's power. But they add these 3 stories, and the first one is from Kurt Busiek and Chris Bachalo. The second one is written by Trad Moore and illustrated by Trad Moore. And the third one is Saladin Ahmed, and I cannot remember the artist right now.
Aaron Cooter.
And I felt like Aaron Cooter, okay, an artist I actually really liked. So I felt like this detracted from the story.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know why they do this at this point. I mean, I guess you're trying to tack on some extra pages to milk out an extra $2 to the cover price or something. But when you have a comic like this and you're at basically 64 pages, 62 pages, I guess you cut out some of the stuff, and it's one big action story, you're good. You've succeeded. You've done a good thing, and just call it a day. You put these other stories on, and none of them are terrible or good. I mean, they're just there. This is exactly the kind of story that, to your point earlier, DC's doing for their 750 issues and that stuff. It's all
for a DC comic, it would have been 12 of these instead of just 3 of them. So right. I do like that.
Yeah, I mean, so good that you're putting it back there. But what was the only one possible that I could see of having some kind of impact is the Saladin Ahmed story at the end, where they go into some of the backstory behind the Vulture's granddaughter, and she's being used in the Champions and some other places now. And so it introduces you kind of more to a character. And so I guess that's valuable-ish.
Made her look stupid.
Sure. I mean, it's not
she outed herself. Spidey wasn't even there looking for Vulture. He was just swinging through, and then he's like, "Oh, you're the Vulture's granddaughter. Your grandpa's the murderer." She's like,
yeah.
"He said those were lies," and he's like, "Google it, bitch."
Exactly. And then she proceeds to knock him out and be like, "Well, I've got him completely dead at this point. I could throw him in the river and kill him, but I think I'll just fly away because I need to go do that Googling." It is weird. I mean, and then you have the Kurt Busiek story, which is this month's installment of plants are attacking people, sort of plants thing. I guess
the art.
Magic Straw. Yeah, I mean, Chris is a great artist, and I always enjoy watching him on the comic. And maybe this is kind of to hype the Spider-Man, what is it, nonstop action, or that title that's coming out. But again, it like Spider-Man fights some strawberry plant magic monsters with J. Jonah Jameson. It's like, all right. I mean, the Trad Moore comic is kind of fun looking. I
couldn't read it because I hate the art so much.
I mean,
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I know Trad Moore's your boo, but it's not for me.
I think he fits some titles and not others. I don't think I don't know. He's weird with Spider-Man. Spider-Man has gigantic thighs. I'm just saying. And then it promises,
but Donker on Spider-Man.
he's. I mean, we're gonna get some of the Nightwing stands are gonna come over here, and
he should be in a rat video.
Absolutely. I don't know, and it's promises maybe to be continued. I mean, there's more? I guess
possibly, but we're not guaranteeing it.
I don't know. It's such a weird thing, and also I find it strange that like you said, they've been introducing Kindred and kind of teasing him for 50 issues now, and the next, we go from this Sin Eater event into Last Remains, which is the next event that comes to you in, I think 3 weeks or 2 weeks with Spider-Man 50.
Spider-Man 50 is next week, sir.
Never mind. Next week we get Spider-Man 50. So we're going right into our next event, all about Kindred. Patrick Gleason on the art, which would be great. But I mean, Kindred's a character.
One of the young guns at Marvel. He's an up and comer.
A Stormbreaker. Yeah. I would have used, if you're going to put some back material in here, I would have used it to maybe remind people who Kindred is, because it's like it's been a long burn at this point. It's like, I mean, this is a mystery that
they should have done a Claremont and kind of gave you a little catch up.
Yeah, catch up what's happening. Remind why this is a threat that's coming at you in 1 week. This is not the. I don't know. Like you said, I don't know what the point of these 3 stories are. I mean, fine, I guess. I think the main story was okay, but yeah.
Felt like a WWF main event.
There you go.
It didn't make sense, but it was fun. I could dig that.
I'm overthinking it, so I will definitely give you that.
So I enjoyed it. Like I said, this is a recommend, on the verge of a highly recommend. Probably if they hadn't tacked on those extra 3 stories, it'd probably be a 4-star highly recommend. But I really enjoyed it. Perch overthought a little bit, but he enjoyed the action. He admitted that.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoy it. I have a hard time, and I admit it, it's me. When a couple little silly things happen, it's hard to overlook it. The Spider family kind of hanging out, looking down on this, which they've been doing for, I think, 3 issues now, or it's been a while. It's like, all right, that's just annoying. But anyway, it's all good.
So
could be worse.
All right, Perch, I appreciate you joining me. You want to do Spider-Man 50 next week?
Absolutely.
Boom, we're going to do Spider-Man 50 next week. We'll see the first appearance of Kindred. Is it going to be Gwen Stacy?
I have no idea.
Is it going to be Harry Osborn? Who's it going to be?
We've gone back and forth on all this stuff. I have no idea at this point. I made some guesses earlier on, but this is exactly it. You need to reintroduce people to this character because he's been creeping in the shadows with this centipede stuff for like forever. Like, Come on, why are we supposed to care next week? Let us. Anyway, I'm complaining again.
Because it's $9 and it's number 50.
Let's make that cash.